Thank you for listening to Organic News here on Awake Radio, where we try to give you news that is organic.
We are live now on Awake Radio on the show called Organic News. And unfortunately, Kristen Megan, who was at the Save Long Island Forum, was not able. She had something come up at the last minute and she wasn't able to be on. But we have with us Korey Wise. Can you hear me, Korey?
Yes, I can.
I mean, I thank you so much for being willing to come on at the last minute. I literally asked you just about a half an hour or so ago.
We do the. I hope that we able to do the best we can.
I am, but I was wanting to have you on anyway, because like now you're the third Central Park the third out of the 5 who I've had on the show. The first one I had was Yusef Salam. He was the first, and then Ray Santana, and now you. So I have 2 more to go after you.
Well, okay.
So I went to one of the. I didn't go into the courtroom, but outside there was a gathering down by 500 Pearl Street. This is kind of going back a few months now. There were not a lot of people there, who like lawyers and some family members. So what's been happening? Like, what are the updates to the case of the Central Park 5? I mean, everyone knows now that you guys have been acquitted. You're all free, but I'm a curve my mouth right about now. I have a fundamental someone here with me. Okay.
Because I can't really chew on too much of just ask me some questions.
Okay.
Ask me some questions.
Then talk about if you care to like what happened in 1989.
Thank you. Just the best of that is the police officers. I'm gonna try to be as brief as I can with it. But the police officers came looking for Yusuf. And
you didn't know him. You and him were not friends then.
Huh?
You and him were not friends then, right?
Yeah, we was friends. We was friends before all of this.
Oh, okay.
It was me and Yusuf. I didn't know no Raymond. I didn't know no Kevin. I didn't know no Antron. I didn't know whoever it was. It was just me and Yusuf.
Oh, okay.
Just me and Yusuf.
Right.
And like I said, the police came looking for Yusuf. Then Yusuf Salam was with me, and we later on we saw a police unit returning back to our complex of Schaumburg, and and as I see them, and as they walk into Yusuf and I's building of 1309, and when they got into the elevator, man, once upon a time I was living on the 19th floor, and Yusuf was on the 21st floor, if I still remember correctly, and the officers went to his floor. Right. So when the officers went to his floor, I had turned around while we were still in the street, and I had told Yusuf they went to your floor. And he said, wow, so what you want to do? I said, let's just go upstairs and get this out the way, because they're going to keep coming back. So we went upstairs, and as we got in the walkway of his doorway, his door was open with some officers standing in front of his door. And his family that was standing, his family that was standing outside at his doorstep, and said, they go Yusuf right there. So the officers turned, and they saw Yusuf. And they asked Yusuf his name. Yusuf gave them his name, and they had a list. And his name was on the list. So they said, okay, then he had some friends with him. So they asked me my name. And I believe at the time I said Korey Wise. So they looked at their list, and they said, no, fortunately, you're not on the list. You didn't make the cut.
Well, that was a relief.
So I said, okay. So they said, but we would like to take Yusuf down to the station and just talk to him about what was going on in the park. We just would like to talk to him, to question it. So I said, you looked at Yusuf, and it would be nice if you could come along with him. So if he don't have any answers for us, and on his way back home, he has someone to accompany him back home.
Oh, so you ended up going with him.
Right. So I brought to the officer's attention. I said, okay, would it be any necessary if I find myself going downstairs to inform anybody on my end? And so you could, but there's no need because you're not on the list. Right. So I said, okay. So I looked at Yusuf. Yusuf looked at me, wise man. I said, all right, I'll go with you. And it's been 13 years later.
And so how did you, so obviously they managed, even though your name was not on that list, to drag you into it. How did you end up becoming a part of it if your name was not on that list?
Well, all I can say on that end, as I found myself learning from the documentary, they already picked up people the evening of the 19th, and out of Wild Kingdom, out of nature, the officers made a spider web. The officers made a spider web for somebody like myself to come through.
Mm. Okay, describe if you can. Describe what you mean by the spider web.
A spider web is for as spiders put together a spider web for insects to come through and get caught up in a spider web.
Yeah.
So that's how I incorporate the rest of my life into being caught up in a spider web.
Yeah. So what happened when you went down there with Yusuf?
I never came back.
And so, how did they end up, implicating you in all of this? If your name was not on that list, when Yusuf and I was in the station house, they had put us together in a room, and when they had put us together in a room, a door to my left had opened up. And when that door to my left had opened up, another officer said, who's Korey? Or who's Wise? And I had raised my head, and they said, come in the room with me. And that was the end of my days. And what happened when you went in that room?
They told me to come in and have a seat. And I have some questions for you.
What did they start asking you?
Huh?
What were they asking you?
Was you in the park April 19th? And I said, yeah, I was in the park April 19th, and I had came home.
Right. And they were asking you like what you were doing and where you were and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were trying to get into all that, but like I said, I just told them, yeah, I was in the park and I had came home, and that was it.
And the so like they ended up like kind of coercing you guys into like false confessions.
Say again?
They ended up coercing you guys into like false confessions.
I don't know. Like I said, I only can speak for myself. Like I said, I was there. I was in the state of mind that I'm in right about now to you. I was there, and I wasn't supposed to have been there for all of that.
Yeah.
I went there. I went to the police house being a nice guy with you, sir. I wasn't expecting to go to I wasn't expecting to go through the interrogation.
And like, what did they say to you? I mean, like, when did you know?
I really, how much I wear my heart on my sleeve. I really can't go through all that right about now with you. I'm just, like I said, all of that was beyond my comprehension. I wasn't supposed to have been in that long.
Yeah.
At all, even like what I'm trying to say to you at the same time with it. If I would have known what I know now, I would not have went to the station house.
Yeah.
Period. So that would be my argument to you and whoever else is listening. Because if I was in the same state of mind that I'm in right about now, and Yusuf's door was open and his family was at the door, I would have just looked at Yusuf, family, your door's open, you got family at your door, they can ride with you down there, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Right. So you thought you were just being like a good friend to Yusuf by going down there with him.
Right.
And of course, like that's what you get for being like a good friend. I mean.
Right.
And so you were in jail for 13 years.
Huh?
13 years?
Yeah, 13 years worth of ass whoopings.
I'm sorry. 13 years worth of ass whooping?
13 years worth of ass whoopings, beating up, and stabbings, right.
Inside of jail?
Inside from Rikers Island to Clinton to Attica to Wendy Correctional Facility, all the way up to Auburn Correctional Facility.
And where are those places?
Or they all upstate. Upstate New York.
Do you want to talk about that? Like, do you want to talk about what it was like?
Unfortunately, proudly speaking, to have came across Mateus personally, or without his name, I will call him Destiny. I will always be thankful. Long story short, I will always be thankful for my destiny. And 13 years later, Mateus Reyes, because after being away with murderers and rapists and just the personalities of these people. So savage personalities.
Yeah.
So it was held in, and as of right about now, it's still held out. It's still, it's still embedded in my head, you know.
Oh, I could imagine. I mean, like, it's not, I don't think sometimes, I mean, these are not easy things to overcome.
Oh, hell no.
And I'm sure the city of New York isn't helping any. I mean, like,
right.
They haven't, I mean, you guys are currently in the process of getting some kind of compensation.
Well, yeah, as far as I'm concerned with that, I feel that I was supposed to, it would have been nice to have been gotten that, but I guess better late than never. But other than that, other than the compensation, I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be alive out of all of that anyway.
And so you were the one that was that met the guy who did it, right? You were in jail with the guy who ended up admitting to you.
Yes, Mateus Reyes.
Mateus Reyes, right?
Right.
And
I am very thankful for him because he returned a great deal of Thanksgivings, Christmas, and New Year's to me, as well as and birthdays. He returned a whole lot to me, so it's better late than never because he didn't have to say a damn thing to me.
So like that's when I first watched the documentary of the Central Park Five, and found out that it was the actual guy who committed the crime, who had more. So here he is, this guy who is like the real rapist who committed this crime actually had more sort of remorse than the system that put the five of you away. Like, even, I mean, they knew that they were putting you away, and that that you guys weren't the real ones that did it. And yet a rapist actually has more conscience, to come out and admit it and admit that he was the one that did it.
Well, basically, on Mr. Mateus, I'm just, as I found myself learning that he had put a multi-million-dollar scar on my face. So no less concerned. That's why he came before me with it.
He put a scar on your face. You said he put a scar on your face, Korey?
Yeah.
Like physically, you mean?
Yeah, he put a scar under my right eye.
Oh, like while you.
We had an altercation in the TV day room. That's why I call myself King.
Oh. And
we had a fight over the TV.
And like when did he find out that you were in jail because of what he did? Did he always?
There you go.
Like when? I mean, did he always know, Mateus Reyes, that you were in jail for what he did?
I'm not in the man's head. I don't know.
Oh.
So chances are, when I found myself in Auburn Correctional Facility, the word got back to him that one of the Central Park joggers in the same jail with him.
Okay. And so when you had the altercation with him in the TV room, like he didn't necessarily. I mean, you didn't know who he was. He didn't know who you were.
Well, the funny part for me to you and those that listening, before my destiny got there, and I was watching TV in the day room. And I was watching I was about to watch Channel 7 Eyewitness News, and they had popped up with a special report that was dealing with Mr. Reyes.
Oh, really?
So after they had popped up with a special report of Mr. Reyes, I had recognized one of the officers that they was. I had recognized one of the officers, which was Mike Sheehan, Detective Mike Sheehan, and they was talking about Mr. Reyes' rap sheet. So when they was talking about Mr. Reyes' rap sheet, the thought came to me one time, and that was, could he have something to do with this? Could he have had something to do with this case here?
Oh, so you actually thought that?
Right.
What was the news? What were they talking about this guy? Like what?
They were just talking about Mr. Reyes, this rap sheet of raping and killing a pregnant woman and so forth and so on. But that was about it.
Wow. And then so you recognized him.
Huh?
So then you recognized him from that.
Well, like I said, it was just that little piece that I had caught from the news. But after Mr. Reyes came to my housing unit one May in C-74, chances are I just made it my business to forget what I saw on the news.
You had to forget what you saw on the news?
Right, dealing with him, yeah.
Okay. And so, like, how did it come about that he came forth and admitted it? Like, how did that happen?
Like I said, when we was up in the Auburn Correctional Facility, and chances are within the institution, the rumors of inmates, one of the Central Park joggers is here, and chances are it found him. It found Mr. Reyes, and like I said, Mr. Reyes is about 10,000 of us coming from programs, heading into the yard, getting ready to go back to our cells for the next event. And like I said, Mr. Reyes saw me on the basketball court. Mr. Reyes then hollered at, called for me, Mr. Wise, and he said, Mr. Wise, do you remember me? I said, do I remember you from where? He said, no, from Rikers Island. I said, okay, Rikers Island, all right. He said, I would like to apologize to you. I said, apologize to me for what? He said, because we had an altercation in the TV day room. I said, okay, I remember that. All right. He said, I see you still have the scar. I see you still have the scar on your face.
Oh.
So I'm looking at him as if we're about to go at it again about nothing. And that was mainly about it.
And he just apologized to you for the incident that you had with him in the TV day room.
Right, and he just just went on, and I see that you still here, you still maintain your innocence. A whole lot of conversation from him that I really didn't expect from him, but I didn't want to pursue it because I just sort of looked at Mr. Reyes. I sort of looked at Mr. Reyes as being a freak show, just a freak show. That's all.
Oh yeah, he was a freak show, you said?
Yeah, just a freak show. Somebody that was into publicity, and that's about it. Just a freak show.
Okay. And so, did you know that he was going to, admit that he was the? Did he tell you? Did he give you any indication that he was going to that he was actually the responsible for what you were in there for?
No, man, no, and the funny, and shortly after that day, I I had went to the mess hall with the rest of the inmates in Auburn Correctional Facility, and when I had got back, the correctional officers of Auburn Correctional Facility, they had opened up my cell door, and they had told me that they had brought to my attention that I had a phone call in the chaplain's office, and I had went down to the chaplain's office, and my mother, Mrs. Wise, I hope she's still here to this very moment. She had informed me that Mr. Reyes came out with his confession.
Wow. What was your reaction to that?
Well, that blew my mind. It blew my mind because, you know, when I was talking to my mother on the phone, because she was very hysterical with the news, and she was just telling me that Mateus, all he was doing was just talking so much about you, and he was just talking so much about you, and he felt that he had to come forward with his information.
Did you ever speak to him after that? I mean, did you ever get a chance to say, well, like, why?
No, shortly after that, when Mr. Reyes doing that, they had moved Mr. Reyes from Auburn Correctional Facility to Clinton down the mall.
Oh.
And Mr. Reyes, he was in conversation with Channel 7 News anchor. Her name was Amy, and Miss Amy had came to see me back at Auburn Correctional Facility about what Mr. Reyes did.
Oh. And yeah, so you must have been like so relieved.
Yes, I was.
Oh my God.
Yes, I was. I was very relieved then, and I'm very relieved now to this very moment of 2014. Still very relieved from it.
So you spent 13 years, and you spent longer than the other Central Park 5 guys because you were older. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you were what, 17, and the others were 16?
No, I was 16.
You were 16?
Yeah.
And they
I was 16. I was 16. I came home 31.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm really sorry that happened to you.
No, I thank you for it. I thank you for it. But other than that, I appreciate what has happened because I find myself just being a vessel, and then overall I just live and learn from it.
And have you ever been in touch with, or has Mr. Reyes ever been in contact with you, or you know?
Well, good question. The most I can say on that was after hanging out with the Innocent Project, and my lawyer, and along with the rest of the lawyers, they found themselves getting in contact with Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Reyes said, "Who's Wise attorney?" And my lawyer, she said it was me, and she said, and he asked her to come up to Clinton. I don't want to see nobody else but you. And she came, and his state of mind to her was, I really don't want to give my deposition, but for Wise, I would give it for him. And I have one request. I have one request for you, Ms. Jane, and that is to please ask Mr. Wise to please come down to my deposition, because I would like to see him.
So that's your lawyer you're talking about, is that right? I just want to make sure I'm following you right. Okay.
And he said, Please let Mr. Wise know if he don't. I would like for him to be at my deposition. If he declined it, I'm not going to come down. So she called me. She brought it to my attention that Mr. Reyes wanted me at his deposition, and I said sure. So she got word. She got word back to him. She said, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Wise said he will be there at your deposition, and that was it.
Do you mind explaining like what a deposition is?
It's when a city wanted to depose you.
I'm sorry, it's when the city does what?
When a city wants to depose you. The city that you are suing, they want to depose you. They want your side of the story. They want your side of the story.
Okay. And so this was Mr. Reyes' deposition.
Right.
And so, sorry, I'm just trying to, understand. I mean, was Mr. Reyes suing the city?
Huh?
Right, you said it was a deposition. A deposition is someone is suing the city?
Yeah.
And so
is getting ready is in pursuit of suing the city, right?
So Mr. Reyes was suing the city.
No, Mr. Reyes is he's a witness. He's a witness to the Central Park 5. He's just a witness to it.
Okay. Oh, I see. So he was kind of like being deposed for
right because his DNA shows that he was there.
Exactly. Like that's what how they picked the 5, the Central Park 5 when none of your DNA was even at the scene.
Well, like I said, I can't. Like I said, I can't speak for the rest of them like that.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the rest of them like that. And like I said, what I'm saying to you is what I said to the city on my deposition, and that was when they want to say that when I was arrested. No, I wasn't arrested. I was kidnapped. I wasn't arrested.
Exactly. See?
You kidnapped me. I was not arrested.
That's exactly. I want to just like stop and let that sort of sink in to people that are listening, because what you call something, it's very, very important to call things what they are. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right what you just said.
That's all I do.
See, because right, like this, I don't want to go off on like a tangent or anything, but the system that we live in, it's like, of course, they want to just present themselves to be the almighty, and that they're the ones that get to judge other people and pass judgment over someone else, but yet, the people are not ever, allowed to be in a position to pass judgment over them when people are talking about it much, much more these days.
Just to put a quick pause on you. The system will only get away if they can.
Exactly.
If they can, unfortunately, if you have the resources to Miss Sarah Burns and her husband and her father, the great Ken Burns. If you ain't got these type of people that's behind you, right, then the system is going to continue to run over you if they feel that they can do it.
Right. It's the people in the world who have no leverage. If you don't have, right, and you have to have good family behind you too, And
no, the family. I have to put you on pause again on that. The family. When the family come in, that is out of moral support when you locked up.
Yeah.
That's where your family come in. That is when you locked up. You need moral support from them to come visit you. Because if you don't get that, you're going to continue to be violated while you're behind the wall.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, when you have a documentary like this, and you have people that know how to push it, so New York and the rest of the world can see it, then chances are we could probably, with a situation like that, we could become a vessel to the rest of the world with it. But other than that, the system is going to try to get away with it as long as they feel that they can.
Right, because they seem, or not, they don't seem, they are more interested in just locking anyone up and building their careers. The Central Park 5 helped to build a lot of careers.
Yes, indeed.
I'm trying to remember a couple of the names of whose career, of whose, I think it was women. I know there was two of them were women, like the district attorney, and I have to look it up. But
overall, I guess people just doing their job. Whether we like it or not, there's people just doing their job, and I guess overall, we are all victims. We are all victims of this here.
Right. But that's just it. They're not really doing their job. They're not really seeking to find the truth.
Right.
They just want to get it over and done. There's all this pressure and,
Right.
I remember when that happened. I used to do a lot of jogging. So, this case, hit me particularly. I was an avid jogger. I was running all the time. I don't really do it anymore, but, and the fact that, it came out in the documentary how, right, when the system and the city and everyone thought that you guys were guilty, they were just like railroading you, and they want to see you strung up. But then when it came out that it wasn't any of you, not one out of the five, and that it was someone completely different, the city was not in such a rush to praise you and to apologize and to make amends as much as they were ready to string you up when they thought you were guilty.
Right.
And I know that Donald Trump had made not a very nice statement way back when this went down. And has that guy apologized? He owes you a pretty big apology.
I don't. I'm learning all of this here from the documentary. I wasn't home with Donald Trump with his statement. I'm learning all of that from the documentary. All I'm grateful for. Chances are I will catch up to Mr. Donald Trump, what have you. But all I'm grateful for, whether people like it, whether people want to hear it or not, don't give a damn really. But I'm just grateful to have came across Mr. Reyes, and I'm grateful that Mr. Reyes, 13 years later or so, he made it his business to say hello to me, because he didn't have to say nothing to me. Right about now, according to former Governor Pataki, I would still be upstate.
Yeah.
I would still be upset because I did not participate in the sex offender programs that was mandated by him. Whoever don't participate in sex offender programs, you don't go home. You don't go home at all. And I wasn't participating in the sex offender programs.
And what kind of programs? I'm sorry. What kind of programs?
A sex offender program.
I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
Sex offender programs.
Central.
Huh?
I'm sorry. It's just a little bit hard to get the word that you're that.
It's a program of state called is a sex offender program.
Oh, a sexual offender?
Right. Right.
Okay, sorry, I was having a little bit of trouble understanding that word.
But it's a program that upstate carries up there.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm just grateful what Mateus did. If he did not say nothing, I would still be up there right now. That's it.
And I mean, I guess you the jogger. I mean, you've never met her, or she's never approach you guys or anything like that. I mean, you've never met the victim in that case, have you?
I really, whether I see her or not, I really don't want to see her. I really don't want to see her. I am just grateful for Reyes. That's all.
Yeah, and I'm
grateful for her.
He's still in jail. He must still be in jail.
Yeah. He'll
probably be in jail for quite a while.
No, he's never coming this far.
Yeah, he'll be. Do you have no idea like how much longer he'll be in jail? I mean, I mean, I haven't looked him up, but yeah, I'm sure he's going to be behind bars for quite a while.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. And so, as far as just currently, do you feel like just talking a little bit about like what the current, because there's something, Central Park 5 is suing the city, right? And how is that going?
Well, so far so good, and see what happens. See what happens next Tuesday.
Oh, what happens next Tuesday?
No, they supposed to have a press meeting. They're supposed to have a press meeting down at City Hall Tuesday morning.
Oh, what time? Maybe I'll go.
About 11:30, 11:40.
And that is that. You said City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll try to go to that.
Huh?
Maybe I'll try to go to that. Can people go? Is that something that people can go to if they want to support?
Yeah, it's open to the public.
Okay, so that's next Tuesday. The date of that is. Let me just get that date so we can. Hold on, I just want to. Oops. Sorry, people. The date is the 4th. So that's Tuesday, February the 4th.
Yeah.
So you said approximately 11:30 at City Hall here in New York City.
Yeah.
And it's going to be outside, like a kind of like a gathering, like a protest kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Okay, so people that are listening, if you have, or you want to make the time to show up at the City Hall here in New York at 11:30, February the 4th, to show support for the Central Park 5. Is there a website or anything that people can find that, Korey?
Not to my knowledge. This is right up. Not to my knowledge. This is right up. I just recently just posted it, but like I said,
okay.
For the public, you say about 11 o'clock.
Okay, so about 11.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything else that you might want to say before you go? Do you have a website or anything like that where people can? Are you on Twitter? You're on Twitter, right, Korey?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
And a little bit of Twitter.
And so you keep in touch with the other guys. You guys must be pretty close.
No, I don't. I try to do my best with my boy Yusuf. That's it.
Okay.
And he's Mr. Mom, but like I said, that's about it. Besides that, we are all grown. We got places to go. People say things to do, but other than that, no.
Right. And so this gathering on Tuesday, that is to bring attention to your case and to get support for your case. Are the other guys, are the 5 of you going to be there?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, Korey, I wish you and the rest of the Central Park 5 all the best, and
thank you so much.
I wish you all the best in reclaiming in your life and leading a powerful life, and being an advocate for things like this so it doesn't happen to anybody else.
Thank you very much, and I try to do my best.
And I hope to meet you. Maybe I'll meet you next Tuesday.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Okay, Korey. May the force be with you.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Bye-bye. So we are back, and again, I want to thank Korey Wise. He's been through an ordeal and a very, very hard learning experience that not many people, it might be getting more prevalent. And we have about 8 minutes before Jason Burmis is going to join us, and I just wanted to take a few minutes and perhaps play a little bit of a clip that I watched on Democracy Now! About a documentary called Private Violence, Survivors and Advocates Confront Victim Blaming and the Epidemic of Domestic Violence, which is an issue that I think is extremely important. And so I'm just going to play a bit of it for 5 or so minutes from the documentary. Actually, it's the interview with Amy Goodman and Kit Gruelle, who was part of putting this documentary together.
Yes, this is Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report. We're in Park City, Utah at the Sundance Film Festival following the documentary track dealing with the critical issues of the day.
It's believed a Linden police officer shot and killed his entire family. Today, 5 people were found dead in the Spanish Fork home, including the officer and his 2 children, just 5 and 7 years old.
Authorities say Linden police officer Joshua Bourne shot and killed his mother-in-law, wife, and 2 young children before turning the gun on himself.
That's actually not a clip from a documentary. It happened last week here in Utah as the Sundance Film Festival got underway. Back home in New York City, a 21-year-old woman and her 2 daughters, ages 2 and 1, were found stabbed to death over the weekend. The victim's husband has been arrested in Texas. Police have reportedly investigated 2 incidents of domestic violence at their home this year. The list of such tragedies is long, but they're often not named for what they are, part of an epidemic of intimate partner violence. In fact, there's a documentary here at Sundance that deals with that very issue. It's called Private Violence, and it highlights the struggles of survivors and the advocates who support them. Set in North Carolina and directed by Cynthia Hill, the film follows advocate Kit Gruelle, who is herself a domestic violence survivor. This is a trailer, a warning that this is footage that's disturbing.
I do this work because I survived a really violent relationship, and it took me getting into this work and understanding it to really see that it's just so widespread.
This last time, he almost killed me in front of my daughter.
But what happened to you shouldn't happen to anybody ever.
I know that's why I'm here.
What do your parents have to say about it?
Why didn't you just leave?
Did he ever threaten to kill you?
Yeah, lots of times.
She is still living, correct?
She's still alive. The local prosecutor, he declined to prosecute because he said she should have tried to get away from him. If he was convicted only of misdemeanor assault on a female, what would he be looking at as far as time?
The most he could receive is 150 days.
The daughter and Deanna were back in the cab part of the truck. He just started beating on her.
Martina asked him over and over, why are you doing it? Why are you hurting my mama?
Once he got back to North Carolina, he was interviewed by law enforcement and admitted to beating her so badly that he almost broke his fingers.
As an advocate, there were so many injustices that I thought happened with her. Martina was removed from him. That really angered me.
What was it like when they came and took Martina?
They destroyed me. She still asks me why I gave her away.
Does she remember this?
Yeah.
Our criminal justice system requires she be beaten enough to satisfy the system. And by the time it gets to that point, she's already been so worn down psychologically and physically and emotionally. You know, the courts have told her that she doesn't have value, and her partners told her that she doesn't have value. Perhaps family and friends have done that through their actions with her. Why don't you just leave him? Why are you staying with him? That's when it's really time for advocates to really step up. Luckily, the judge picked up the case, and it's going to be prosecuted under the Federal Violence Against Women Act. If he doesn't go to prison, he will turn around immediately and start to hurt women again.
If we weren't going to do anything, then maybe nothing was going to be done, and something had to be done.
I'm not going to let him get away with what he done to me, my daughter. Nobody should get away with this. Nobody.
I'm always so astonished and moved at the people who want to come into this movement and do this work, because it's not easy work. It can be heartbreaking and frustrating, but it can also be unbelievably uplifting. You witness victims shedding that skin and just leaving the violence behind.
The HBO documentary film Private Violence is currently at the Sundance Film Festival. I sat down Tuesday with the film's director, Cynthia Lynch, and advocate Kit Gruelle. I started by asking Kit to talk about her own story.
I survived a very violent marriage that ended with the death of my husband 34 years ago. and he was killed in an accident offshore in Louisiana. And it just was, the whole experience was so astonishing. And it took a long time for me to start to pull myself together. But then I took my boys and moved down from the mountains to the Chapel Hill area. And I saw an ad for a training opportunity for crisis line volunteers for the domestic violence program. And I went to the training, and I felt like I had just been, that I'd found my emotional home, my spiritual home, my intellectual home, and it just fit with my personality type, because I feel very strong. I'm a human rights activist. But to me, this is so essential, because if you can't be safe in your own home, then where can you be safe? And then because of my own experience, I just recognized that it wasn't just the abuser that the victim had to deal with. It was also these oppressive systems who would marginalize her and judge her and stigmatize her and make her feel like she was doing something wrong. And so I wanted to challenge that too.
Can you tell us your story? When you talk about being a victim of domestic violence, I think what happens is people just say that phrase, and then other women who go through it think, well, if it's not described, they think, well, that I can't be going through what they call domestic violence.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people believe that domestic violence only happens to poor and educated women. In my case, my late husband had been, he'd gone into Vietnam and gone to the Vietnam War as a Marine. And so he was trained by the Marines to be aggressive, to hunt people down and kill them. And he told me repeatedly that if I ever tried to leave, that there wasn't a place on the planet that I could go to get away from him. And so the reality for battered women is they just learn to live with the violence, because unfortunately, for a great number of women, when they do make that bold move, what I often refer to as a declaration of independence, and say, I can't live like this anymore, the children can't live like this anymore, we've got to go, then the abusers oftentimes hunt them down and kill them. And so for us as advocates, we see women have to make the choice of staying and living with the violence, or leaving and running the risk of being killed. And we just believe that there should be a lot more options, and that's what advocates work towards. The other thing is that we're so desensitized to violence in the United States that oftentimes women have to be beaten badly enough before our criminal justice system responds. Like, for example, in North Carolina, we have a charge called misdemeanor assault with a deadly weapon. So in North Carolina, a man can shoot or stab his wife or girlfriend, and unless it involves a serious injury or a life-threatening injury, it's going to be charged at the misdemeanor level. And
so that was just a few minutes of the woman Kit Gruelle, who is in this documentary, Private Violence, talking about her own, what happened to her. And I'm going to do my best actually to contact her and have her on this show, because I think this is a really important subject that needs attention. And so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Jason Burmis. Please stay tuned. So we are back. Thank you, Korey Wise, and thank you, Amy Goodman, for the segment from Democracy Now! On the documentary Private Violence. I'm going to do my best to try to get someone from that documentary on in the future. And right now we have Jason Bermas with us from Invisible Empire. Is one of your documentaries, is that right, Jason?
Yep, Invisible Empire and New World Order Defined, and my latest is Shade the Motion Picture.
Shade the
Yes.
Motion Picture. So, okay, so you were at the Save Long Island Forum last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the documentary that you showed a clip from, is that right?
Yeah, Shade is the documentary I showed a clip from.
Okay, I'm just gonna write that down, Shade, so I can look it up. Okay, and this documentary is going to be on a number of...
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. I mean, we give everything away for free. We put it out on October 15th. If you want to get an actual copy, you can get one at, I believe it's shadethemotionpicture.com.
I'm going to watch it as soon as this show is over. I'm going to watch it.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, we're trying to get it to as many people as possible. It's got, I believe, 160,000 views right now. Of course, we want it higher than that. You know, it's one of these pictures that really, again, has the production value of the bigger documentaries you see, of things that you see on the History Channel and beyond. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this message across as efficiently as possible.
And so, like, how did you get started in this, you know, what a lot of people call conspiracy theorists, but like, I don't even like I never use that word, or those words, but so many people,
you know, I kind of cringe at when I get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
There, a bit, like, especially right out of the gates, because what I say to people is, look, you know, I've been making documentaries now for close to a decade on some level. It's pretty incredible. I'm blessed to have been able to do this, you know. And I got started because I got started in 9/11 Truth before truther was a term. You know, I started looking at 9/11 in 2002, and I was very, very upset with a lot of the things that I had seen evidence-wise, connections to the hijackers and U.S. military bases. You know, Dennis, who was it? Dennis, man, I can't remember his last name, but he did Muhammad Atta and the Flying Venice Circus. Sander Hicks was doing work with GNN at the time. And then I came across, of course, Alex Jones and Infowars.com. And, you know, I wanted to disprove these guys. And the problem was a lot of their evidence was from mainstream news sources. And, you know, as I fell down to that rabbit hole, so to speak, you know, I started telling people, and I just kind of got involved. And, you know, by the time the 2004 rigged election was in, I was already, you know, being that guy at the party or the bar that wouldn't shut my mouth about this subject. And, you know, a lot of people were like, you know, pretty taken aback by it. But it was through that I fell into Loose Change and working with Corey Rowe and Dylan Avery and, you know, putting out a movie that really brought 9/11 Truth into the mainstream. It was really the birth of the internet allowing you just to upload full movies. YouTube was letting you do these 15-minute clips or 10-minute clips. We had to have a director's account. It was very hard to get at the time. But Google was competing, and Google allowed you to upload it. And we were just #1 through 10 sometimes on Google Video. And it was about this subject that really had interjected us into these wars of aggression in Eurasia, first in Afghanistan, then into, of course, Iraq, but really on a larger scale where, you know, we drone who we want. And it doesn't matter if it's in Pakistan, if, you know, it's a target in Saudi Arabia, we're going to do it. And that's the bottom line. So
I was just going to say real quickly, like we were just briefly speaking about, you know, the Central Park 5 case. I mean, that's a really small example of just a couple of young people getting railroaded for something that they didn't do. And so if it can happen at that level, then, I mean, of course it can happen on a much larger scale. So why that's so hard for people to get their head around, you know, I mean, I don't see how, you know, how is that such a difficult...
Well, I mean, living through it, the brainwashing was so efficient, and it was the birth of the 24-hour news network. Sure, we had CNN, you know, we got to see our first war live with the Gulf War on CNN, but really Fox News wasn't big. MSNBC was kind of failing at that point. They were covering the Clinton scandal at that time, trying to get an audience there, but no one really, no one really knew who they were. And the difference was that after 9/11, first of all the major networks turned to 24-hour news for days and days and days, and it wasn't until probably about a week later people started going back to the regular broadcast, but by then people were hooked anyway. And the news, you were bombarded with 9/11. They told you who had done it. It really was a different world, I would say, for a lot of us pre-9/11. And 9/11 is that event that really has woken a lot of us up to false flag terrorism, the fact that our government does run the hard drugs, both cocaine from South America and now opium from Afghanistan. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Exactly. I mean, because 9/11 is the, you know, the foundation of all of these wars. It's the foundation of the NDAA. It's the foundation of, like, the TSA feeling you up at the airports, you know, the Patriot Act. I mean, that's exactly what everything is built on it. That's the excuse that they use to take more and more of our freedoms away. The boogeyman terrorist is going to get us at every turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there was a lot of contention about this evidence and that evidence and loose change, and we ended up making loose change final cut where we were able to really do our own investigation, stick to the facts. I would say it's a more adult version, but at the same time, it deals with the physical anomalies. So after that, I made a movie. I wrote and directed a movie called Fabled Enemies, and it's about an hour and 40 minutes, and it brings you through the separate organizations that the terrorists were part of. Whistleblowers like Springman, who talked about the Saudi Arabian embassy. Most of these, 17 to 19 guys from Saudi Arabia, supposedly, and then, of course, 14 of those guys go through the same embassy that he blows the whistle on, that they're basically shipping in CIA assets for their asset, Bin Laden. And this was in the late 90s, just before the attacks. And then you see these guys all over Florida bases, in Virginia, Maxwell Air Force Base. You had the Defense Language School vice chancellor, I believe, come and blow the whistle and say that Bush allowed the attacks to happen. And it so happened, I think 5 of the hijackers had gone there. We talk about the not only that connection, the Saudi Arabian connection, but the ISI connection, the Pakistani connection, where they wire out $100,000, and by the day I mean the head of the ISI, through the man who actually, Omar Sheikh Zayed, the man who actually assassinated Daniel Pearl, cut his head off. That's the guy we pinned that on. And even stranger than that, Benazir Bhutto, who was trying to run for president of India, named that same man as the actual assassin of Bin Laden years and years and years ago on Frost Now. I think it was on Robert Frost's program. So that's an incredible revelation. Anyway, this man facilitates a $100,000 wire transfer for the head of the ISI to Atta, and nothing said. And it looks like there are state sponsors. Even today, Bob Graham is coming out and talking about it. We have 28 pages, I believe, redacted from the initial congressional report, who was by Bob Graham, and Porter Goss, by the way. Porter Goss would later become the head of the CIA for just a short period of time. It's incredible. All these guys that investigate this thing and basically allow for small cover and no further investigation and these blackouts to occur, they get promoted.
Well, that's kind of what they, not kind of what they do. That's what they do. They fund, the very thing that they say they're trying to, control. These, this thing called Al-Qaeda. Haven't people said that, the CIA is funding Al-Qaeda or is Al-Qaeda?
Well, you know what? There's a great book by Sander Hicks called The Big Wedding, where he really documents the fact that Al-Qaeda is shepherded out of the Muslim Brotherhood and their connections to the CIA in the late 70s against the Russian. It's an intriguing book. It's something that's, Sander's done some great work all around. If you don't know who Sander Hicks is, you should definitely check his stuff out. I forget what his last book is, but it was really interesting as well. And it's just amazing how we've ignored all these real connections outside of all the physical anomalies. And now we're where? Where are we? We're almost 15 years later. There's been really no real investigation. There's been no prosecution of the upper echelons of criminality that actually, took this government over for what was left. Because, again, it's incremental. If you watch my film, Fabled Enemies, I show you how they take this continuity of government program and they create a shadow government back in the 80s through the same guys who were in the president's cabinet, people like Cheney and Rumsfeld under the Reagan administration when Daddy Bush was the vice president. Continuity government is the shadow government. And it just so happens on 9/11, all these continuity of government drills are taking place. You have these E-4Bs at the scene of the crime. The E-4Bs, of course, are, they're the doomsday planes. They have upper echelon government officials in them. None of this stuff was ever acknowledged in the 9/11 Commission. Nothing. People like Tony Schaefer blew the whistle with his operation, Able Danger. It's And Schaefer, someone who's on Fox News today, is very outspoken. You'll hear him on the Alex Jones program at times. Yeah. So it's incredible that more people aren't aware of this stuff. I haven't really put that at the forefront of my research or what I talk about when I do talks these days, because there's so much more going on. And in Invisible Empire, I tried to show that. That's why it's my big picture movie. It is a new world order defined, and it's defined as collectivism. So, I just try to keep going on with this stuff because I think it's important. These are issues, but that issue is, like you said, the crux of all of it. It still matters today because our entire foreign and domestic policy is based on the government version of events of that day. And it's a fairy tale. Yeah,
one thing I just, with the mainstream media, right, like you said before, just kind of like, pumping like a lot of propaganda that keeps people, really, pumped up on, whatever GMO information, GMO news, rather than, the real stuff. And it makes people a bit, lazy. Like, see, the thing that, you have to make an effort. Like, if you want good stuff, you got to make an effort to go after it. I mean, if they make it too easy and too convenient by just keeping people, pumped up on stuff, I mean, because that stuff is so easily accessible. I mean, you got to think to yourself, the sort of mainstream news is easily acceptable. So you got to kind of think it's cheap junk. Like if it was that valuable or that good for you, it wouldn't be so easily accessible. So it only kind of makes sense that you really have to work a little bit harder, to get things that are, information, food, whatever, that's a little bit better for you.
Absolutely. Well, here's the deal. We are bombarded with all this disinformation and advertising, as they call it, or Bernays will tell you, it's behavioral programming. So we are bombarded. It is hard to get past that. I still have, my life outside of what I would call the movement. And at this point, I really think it's a civil rights movement. It's a civil rights movement for humanity.
Exactly.
And no one really wants to label it that, but I've been trying to label it, it's team humanity, because I think that every man, woman, and child on this planet should be able to live as free as possible, should rise up against oppression, should not be fear speech. Information should be shared. And I'm not talking about some kind of globalism, because we're going to have our differences. And I like things like states' rights, but I also like things like accountability. So when a corporate criminal does something as vicious and viperous as a serial killer or, one of these monsters on the street we read so much about, we should treat them the same way. When I say corporate, in the sense that they're actually having people killed, what were the revelations this week? Oh, the NSA is fully capable of industrial espionage. Well, we've known that for quite some time. John Perkins, author of Economic Hitman, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, he's been telling us this for years. He's been vindicated yet again. And of course they're still doing it. And now they're doing it on, they're actually putting an actual physical digital record out there, if you think about it, which is more than just that people getting leaned on in the past. So this is even more confirmation that these practices have not only never stopped globally, but we've been escalating these practices with as many tools as possible. People need to wake up.
I just wanted to mention really quickly, I believe it was last night, I watched a segment of a Frontline on the PBS channel, and it was called Search for the Trade or something like that. And they were talking about Steve Cohen from SAC Capital, this Wall Street company, and this guy's track record and the ridiculous amounts of money that he made, through insider trading. And they actually, one guy they put away for 11 years, Rajamatim or something, sorry if I'm not saying his name right, but he's got an Indian name, and Raj Rashtan. So, and I was actually like shocked that they, you know, somebody from Wall Street got 11 years, you know, but the Steve Cohen guy, whose company was riddled with insider trading, didn't get any jail time. The whole company as a whole was like whatever, prosecuted, and again, all they had to do was pay a fine. I mean, I think it was quite a hefty fine, but nonetheless, no one ended up going to jail. And you know, so I mean, I don't know if they're still able to do their insider trading or what, but you know, it's just exactly. I mean, if they can just pay off, you know, their crimes and never get arrested, I mean,
or get medals under the guise of national security, as not only are they never arrested, they're never even prosecuted in the court of even public opinion, you know, at least not on a mass scale, you know, and that's what our job is to expose these people as something other than the heroes that they're portrayed on the mainstream media.
And if I could just bring up one more thing, this really good article in last Sunday's New York Times called For the Love of Money. It was written by a former hedge fund guy, Sam Polk, and he talked about the, you know, his addiction to, you know, to money and power. I mean, among his other addictions of alcohol and drugs and things like that, and how the atmosphere on Wall Street was one, like, you know, before their bonuses came out, was like, you know, like a heroin, like they were waiting for their next heroin injection.
Yeah, I saw that. And that is true. People don't understand when you get to that level, because, you know, I'm also an advocate that you don't want to give anybody too much power, and that's why we don't need dictators, because unfortunately power corrupts people. It does. It changes people. And you don't know, I don't think that I should be trusted with all the keys to the castle. There should always be somebody out there to keep another person in check. And that's why, yeah, it's absolutely true. And that's why I think that the idea that we still have royalty in this day and age is absolutely ludicrous, that people will elevate themselves based on bloodlines over other people. The idea that you should be based on anything else other than the content of your character is insane to me. We shouldn't be putting crowns on anybody or worshiping anybody. Obviously, I think a lot of the systems out there are extremely flawed in places like Saudi Arabia, in places like China, and especially in places like the United States now, where openly half of Congress are millionaires. Okay? If that doesn't just, they're openly millionaires. If that doesn't show you the level of corruption that we've reached, you know, as our paychecks get thinner and thinner and everything costs more and more, well, get into the business of politics, and chances are, if you make it to Congress, you'll be a millionaire.
And it's not like they work their way up from being, you know, like your average, you know, Joe to where they are either.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the thing is, once they also leave, they end up getting these jobs with the companies that lobbied for them. You know, but when I say lobbied for them, because they're lobbying on the floor, these corrupt politicians, lobbied for them in the sense that they're the ones writing checks for $10,000 while they're in office, and then giving them nice cushy jobs as advisors and speakers for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year.
So I was going to play a bit of your shade. You know, maybe I'll let it play for about 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
Okay, so shade the motion.
Independence, emergency preparedness, self-reliance. MyPatriotSupply.com. Get our survival seed vault and...
Is this it, Jason? I just want to make sure I'm playing.
Yeah, it is, but you want to probably start it probably like a minute or two in.
Okay.
Or like a minute in. Go a minute in.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Get past the commercial, and then there's a little thing that you have to actually read, so you don't want that either.
Okay, here's just about a minute.
All right.
Well, this is actually a minute and a half.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually a minute. It's saying that the intention of the film is to provide the viewer with a wealth of factual information.
Yep. Just give it a second. It should start up.
one thing I will say that the past 50 years has given me, I would say that nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Governments do not operate the way you think they do. Banks do not do what you think they do. The police department is not here for what you think it is. Nothing in your world works the way you think it does. There's a far higher, bigger picture.
All right, we're at the airport. We're going to be getting ready to go through the TSA. Well, we're at the TSA right now, just as I figured they're searching my bag as we speak. Welcome to America. And we just drove through the Westlake Marriott. We made the loop right by the hotel entrance. We actually went onto the property. This is the hotel where it's all going to occur. The globalists are incredibly dangerous. The status quo means giving into eugenics, death, and world dominance. And the only way to get back our freedoms is by fighting the oppressors. And the oppressors are here.
One thing that I'm here to do is provide a service that the mainstream media is not doing.
A lot of the press is owned by some of the attendees inside of here.
Instead of just harping on them and begging them to cover this, screw it. We are the new mainstream media.
The people inside basically set the agendas and tell them not to report on it.
We are here. We are documenting everything live. Uncut, unedited.
All right, we're at the Bilderberg conference, and the police are getting kind of weird.
This is what we're reduced to. I mean, it's just trying to catch glimpses of people in hiding behind the Financial Times in the back of their limo, which is, it's not great. And they will be defeated, and they know it, and they're starting to run scared, and they should be, because information is power. And the truth is setting us free.
Okay, so that's almost 5 minutes of the intro to your shade that you showed at the Save Long Island Forum last weekend, and I mean I was actually there at the Chantilly, Virginia for that protest against Bilderberg. I went down with a few people, Danny Panzella. I met Tatiana then, and I mean it was a lot of fun. I mean, we had a ball.
I always think it's fun for me to confront these people and let them know that more and more people are waking up, and you can't just have a private meeting of billionaires and their interests, and sometimes the interests of trillionaires, in private without the people being upset about it, when it's so clear that they are in some way pulling the strings in our biggest political processes, including presidential elections. It is not a secret, folks. Look at the attendees list. It is phenomenal. We go over it in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
So exactly. It's not like, back in 1913 when they snuck down to Jekyll Island to sign the Federal Reserve Act, and they did it in secret now. I mean, like now they're just, they don't even really hide it anymore.
Well, it's getting harder and harder, and that's why I think it's important for more and more of us. I mean, look how many people were out in the UK this year for Bilderberg. It dwarfed what happened in 2012. So as you can see, more and more people are getting aggressive, and they should be, and aggressive with cameras, information of what these people are connected to and what their agendas truly are, and not the, you know, propaganda facade that is, you know, rarely cracked from within the mainstream, but it does happen. And that's why when it happens in the mainstream, we have to amplify that to the rest of the world. And that's what I think the alternative media has been really exceptional at, and even expanding upon that, scooping the stories, the smaller stories, by getting out there first. I think, you know, when I was with InfoWars, I remember when there was an attempt to privatize a police department out in Montana, with this guy who had all these connections to special forces and black operations in other countries. And Alex got on a plane and he went down there, and within a week, the whole plan was scrapped and they stuck with their regular police force. Obviously, we don't need a privatized police force run by shady foreign characters. That's absolutely insane. And it's gone even further. You know, that I think, you know, again, InfoWars is at the forefront, along with the IntelliHub, IntelliHub.com, very early on with what went on with Fukushima. Both of them just had incredible sources.
Right. And just this month, they met in Davos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not the same as Bilderberg.
Well, for those that don't know, Davos is the World Economic Forum. So the press is allowed there. There's a big to-do about it. The media is outside. It's kind of a public event. So again, the world leaders are getting together. It's kind of a meet and greet, but you're not going to see anybody outside of economic realms of power. Whereas Bilderberg, you're going to see a lot of different things across the board. You know, every once in a while they throw in a celebrity at Davos, and they have these forums, and there's some stuff in there that you can take away from, but it's not a secret meeting. You know, these things are filmed. You can get some of their forums on things like C-SPAN, for instance.
So it's more like a show.
Yeah, it's a big show. Exactly. If you're tuning in to CNBC or Bloomberg at the time of Davos, they're live outside of Davos. If you're watching BBC, since it's a European event, it's more covered in Europe. And since we're such a infotainment Pop-Tart culture, we wouldn't care less anyway.
And so, right, Bilderberg, they only meet every 4 years.
No, the Bilderberg Group meets every year. They were started in 1954, but the difference with them is they have about 25 core members. People like Kissinger have stayed on the steering committee. It looks like David Rockefeller is out now due to his age because he just can't make it anymore. But we all feel so bad for David, but he really is at the apex there. Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands is on the steering committee. She's going to be there every year. And there's some newcomers out there. You know, Webster Tarpley does a great job in this film of exposing Peter Thiel as, you know, kind of this libertarian guy, and he's one of the co-founders of PayPal, and now he's a CEO over at Facebook. I think he's the president there. So this guy's a big player, and guess what? Now he's on the steering committee. So he's the new face of Bilderberg. And what they do also is grab about 100 people once a year. They kind of handpick that are also at this meeting so they can meet with other high-level players, and it kind of set the agenda for what's going to happen over the next year. And,
you know, do you think they're at the Bilderberg, you know, talking about how to help us?
Well, unfortunately, since the evidence is really overwhelming, that you could call it a plutocracy, and plutocracy is simply a situation where the wealthiest continue to get wealthy and wealthier, while the poorest continue to get poorer and poorer, and the gap widens and widens and widens until you don't have a middle class anymore. You really literally have the serfs and the kings and queens, and that's literally it. And, you know, you're just a plebe. There's that model.
Exactly. I'm sorry. You know, right? Like, can't the people tell that the rich are working so hard? You know, for us.
It's absolutely ludicrous, but at the same time, we also live in what I like to call, it's not a, you know, people are calling it a technocracy, you know, technocrats, and everybody think, oh, that's great, it's a democratic technological society. No, it stands for really technological bureaucrat, but I'll go a step further. It's really a technopoly. And what I mean by that is no matter how these people are literally colluding with each other at the top levels to hide technology from the public. And because of that, it can never even be, a bureaucratic technocracy. It is literally a technopoly where the very few at these tables, unless we find a way to turn it around, turn the technology loose, and I think that there is ways we can and have been doing that, and that's why the camera has empowered so many of us over the last 10 plus years, becoming cheaper and cheaper, and the internet, the availability to share that information with the world. So that is one of the biggest, most revolutionary empowering tools. And I think that we have a chance to break that code. But as of now, the way that they've been able to suppress cheap energy, for instance, to the public is astounding.
Let me just ask you, this just came to me. I was talking about it with a friend. The water contamination that just happened in West Virginia, and it's like, right, like more and more of just, what should be free and, natural resources that everyone needs to live. I mean, do you think that, right, there was any sort of intention behind what happened there?
Well, I don't know that for sure. If you watched Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory, he maybe even alluded to the fact that the BP scandal could have had more to it. I don't know that for a fact either, but I do know that these guys are utterly remorseless after the fact. And the people where this occurs, no matter what, the commoners out there, they're not getting any kind of help that they need. Therefore, they are truly devastated in these events and often just have to move on with their life somewhere else, just pick up and go.
I mean, like they did try down where the BP incident happened to move the people out and take over that area. I believe.
Well, yeah. Once again, these people end up doing what they want.
Right.
And if you don't have any money, well, I'm sorry. It looks like you're just going to do what they want. And what we do is we use our voice and our freedom of speech and our freedom of movement to surpass that and, encourage others to do so by being active and letting people know that we won't stand for it and that these people have to be accountable for their crimes and they need to be taken out of position of power when the will of the people is not followed through. We haven't seen that. That's the problem.
Because I was always like all this political kind of, I'm not going to say conspiracy theory, but like I got into things through a health and fitness kind of a way. Like I just could always feel growing up that I was being sort of, kept down and you weren't really being raised, to be like your fullest, to be and to live as kind of, to your fullest capability. Mm-hmm. And so I got into, like natural healing and I was a big, fitness person like most of my life and studied like a lot of psych stuff and relationship skills and communication skills, because, the way that we interact with one another and treat each other, I feel like is really important, that people really need to start kind of coming together. I feel like a lot of people really don't have good communication and relationship skills. There's bad habits of people kind of, speaking sort of down to one another rather than, lifting one another up. But, and then, as things kind of gradually progress and then, the Occupy movement happened and, I watched the Zeitgeist Addendum and more people are just talking about things that, I used to try to talk about a long time ago. And it's kind of refreshing. But at the same time, I feel like we really do have quite a long way to go.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's always going to be an uphill struggle. It always has for the common class. It's never really easy, but I think that we've been able to break grounds on very, very high levels. And I think that the important thing is that we do something with all this information that we're being spied on, number one. And number two, we have to really take back the government. We have to take out the money. I know that's going to be very difficult to do, but we have to start taking over our, local municipalities first and saying no to some of these things, saying no to the GMOs if we don't want them here. That's the key. Start locally, get involved with your city council, get involved with your local community, your PTA. You want to change the school system, get involved locally. Keep an eye on it.
Let me ask you one question that, how do we, get people that are sort of, right, like just used to living, having a job, they're basically just working for money to pay their bills and kind of get by. Like, you know what? You solved half the puzzle by talking about how you don't talk down to people. Yeah. Okay, the first thing is, if you really, really want to reach somebody, start at a point of agreement rather than a point of contention. In other words, everybody knows something. Everybody understands something's wrong. You're obviously not hanging out with that person, even if they're family, if you don't have something in common and they don't get something, out there, could be a little bit more. So you start there and you work your way out and you talk to them like a human being. And hopefully you can gain their interest. And once you've gained their interest, you say, hey, there's this, that's why I make movies. There's this documentary film that probably explains it a lot better than I do. And, it'll show you some of these clips that I talked about or some of the news articles that I referred to earlier. And just give it a watch. And hopefully, that person's mind starts to change and they realize that this is an urgent matter. And by doing so, they activate. That's why I do these things. There wasn't a term truther, for instance, before Loose Change got big. I was talking about 9/11 truth for years, and when you heard the term truther in the mainstream media, I said, really? They're labeling us as people that want to tell the truth. It's amazing. I know, it's like
it's bizarro world, and it worked somehow. Oh, it's funny. We'll make it ironic. I mean, that's how, unfortunately, celebritarded our culture is, where we are literally in love with these things on the television as if they're our own life, and we just can't, for some reason. I mean, there's a time for escapism, and there's a time for entertainment, but if you're not happy in your own skin, if you're not living the life that you want, I suggest you get started now, because you're not getting any younger. And, everything's just going to move forward. So if you're really unhappy, you got to find a way around it. And it's people that start to discover that, the ignorance is bliss argument isn't the right argument, that they start, like you said, you can make changes in your diet, in exercise that can change your life. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'm glad that I'm getting up at 7 a.m. and I feel good about my personal appearance and I've got energy to do things during the day. And, this is a better lifestyle. I am happier. That's a way to take back your own life. Again, in our film, we start talking about, that's one of the ways that you can take control. Bob Tuskin talks about it, is through the health angle, through the GMO angle. And you can then realize, wow, this is an important issue. Maybe if all these people understood how bad these things were, they would do this and they would get involved and we could label GMOs. And that's how, real movements are started, through people.
Can I just make, this I think is like a really good thought. It just came to me that, like a lot of people think like, waking up to reality and all this stuff that's going on, like it's so overwhelming because, it's like, like so negative or whatever, or, it's too late and there's nothing we can do about it. But then on the other hand, it's actually like a blessing in disguise, because people can also get a chance not only to wake up to so much of, whatever the slavery or something that's going on, but they get to wake up to who they are meant to be in this world. They get a chance to realize who they're supposed to be actually living as, which is so much greater than the person that they're actually currently living at. And they get to be more. They get to experience and find more of themselves. So when people, like, this is why, kind of, drives me like a little bit crazy when people say like, oh, it's negative, and talking about reality and it's all negative and bad. It's not bad, because that's actually the opportunity where people get to really like self-actualize and see what they're really made out of and actually live on this earth the way that they're meant to, which is so much more than the way they're living.
Well, I would agree. And I think that if you choose empowerment over enslavement, you know, it's like that double-edged sword. You're a much happier person. If you enslave yourself to things that don't matter, to, you know, petty television and petty gossip and petty behavior, then you're going to be ultimately probably an unhappy person. You're not going to be receptive. But if you actually care and somehow you just haven't seen beyond the mainstream media, you can then use that information and start empowering yourself and saying, you know what, let's start doing issues that matter. Let's start taking on the MSNBCs and the CNNs and the Fox Newses of the world. And, you know, that's why I think, you know, people like Luke Rudkowski are amazing human beings. You know, this guy is a person who started a global organization that has confronted some of the biggest world leaders and names in the world. And Luke has done just an amazing job himself.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, right, so empowering the people and getting them to, you know, just change, you know, some habits and, you know, embrace, like, their power. And, I mean, it is scary. I mean, it can be scary to think, you know, when people are used to kind of maybe, like, thinking of themselves as, you know, not so smart or maybe, like, a little bit shy or, you know, and they don't feel qualified to step up or to start, you know, doing things. But, I mean, all they got to do is maybe just kind of start doing a bit of research and to realize that it's kind of simple and it's not really complicated. Like, you don't have to be some kind of, like, great mathematician or be able to understand, you know, credit default swaps or things like that in order to know that it's not real. And, you know, that, right, like, living in reality is a good thing. It's not the horrible thing that people think that it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, you know, I don't live my life in fear. That doesn't mean that I don't talk about subjects that are ultimately very scary in their realities. Unfortunately, we do live in realities. This is the food we eat. This is the air that we breathe. These are the global criminals that we have to deal with. Their policies and their belief systems on a regular basis. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean we don't have a voice too. That doesn't mean that we can't gather. We can't take charge of our own life first. We can't find some, you know, you talked about somebody, you know, maybe you're not the smartest person or the fastest or the most tech savvy, but you know something. You know, you could be a hell of a gardener. And you say, you know what, I'm going to start my own organic garden. I'm going to start getting other people involved too at their own house. We're going to have a little club and we're going to start growing our own food and enough for our families during the winter season. That's great. You know, that's a start. You can do that. If you're not very tech savvy, you can be the person that is, you know, educating people on the streets by handing out literature. If you are tech savvy, well, the sky's the limit. You know, that's how I think that we've reached the most people. But, you know, we all have our own talents, and we have to reach within ourselves to really empower ourselves sometimes, because we have been kind of mentally oppressed by the system in trying to say, you're just another cog in the wheel and you don't matter, and, you know, you should just be happy to be this way and you've got it so good. We've been brainwashed because we've had it too good for too long. And I think that we're starting to realize, at least a large number of us, that we don't have it that great at all.
Right, but it was kind of a fake, you know, you have it too good. You know, it's like a, you know, like a materialistic and you know, right, satisfying, you know, yourself with all of your gadgets or all your entertainment, but you know, still really missing, you know, more satisfaction, again, like in relationships or, you know, right, gardening, more kind of natural and organic satisfaction, or being who you're supposed to be in life rather than just working for money so you can kind of, you know, buy, you know, more distractions away from who you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
because I read that article by Sam Polk about For the Love of Money, and he talked about the book called Wealth Addiction, written by Philip Slater in 1980, and it's available because it's out of print, so it's available just on a PDF. And it's a very short book. It's only about 200 pages, and so I started to read that. And he starts talking about wealthy people and the more like materialism and possessions that they accumulate. He starts talking about them like, and referring to them as janitors, like they become janitors, for their own lives because they, all the possessions that they accumulate need to be maintained and repaired and all this and that. And so they spend so much of their lives actually just being like a janitor to all of their possessions, which is not a form of freedom at all. It was kind of...
No, they enslave themselves through really unhappiness. They think they're happy because they feed their addiction, but ultimately, these people that supposedly have everything really don't have anything because, like you said, they don't have the personal relationships and the fulfillment. People that try to do good in their lives, I think that there are very hard moments, don't get me wrong, but in many cases, they're very fulfilled.
There's a documentary called I Am, and it was done by a filthy rich movie producer whose name is Tom Shadyac. He produced movies for Jim Carrey. I can't name them all, but this guy became filthy rich. He had mansions all over the place and cars and yada yada yada. And then he had an accident, like he fell on his bike and had a head injury, and of course it just made him realize what was important and reprioritize. And this documentary is about him completely scaling his life down and getting rid of many of his houses, and then moving into just a very modest house, and living, because he said that he needed managers to help him manage his managers, so he really needed to trim down, and that he wasn't really happy having all of that stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can only get so many possessions and have so much power before it starts to weigh. It changes you as a person. I'm glad that this guy had the revelation that it was causing him really stress and unhappiness, rather than what a lot of these sociopaths do is go for the gold, and by that I mean they just don't care, and that's why they're part of organizations like the Bohemian Grove, and their opening ceremony is the cremation of care, and it's literally a ceremony where you disregard your conscience and you go in for the kill for the betterment of this organization and their agendas.
So, right. So, obviously, people in Bilderberg and the elite and, people like Hank Paulson and just all these crazy rich people, Steve Cohen from SAC Capital, who just, can't get enough. They clearly, just have an illness that they don't seem to have any interest in healing or waking up to. And if I could just quickly mention that when I was watching this Frontline, To Catch a Traitor, I think it was called, this one guy, he kept talking about the edge, how people in the industry were always looking for the edge, to get to the source, like the person who had the source and could tell them, what stock, the inside information, so, right, so there is that need, to get things right at the source, the information, so that they have this edge and then they can use it to make all of their money. And yet, so many people, we have no edge. It's I mean, there are so many people that have no edge at all and can't even get any edge. You know, like they were just talking a lot about that in this movie, the front line, about, you know, having an edge. Like it's all about having an edge and then having more of an edge. And
yeah, no, absolutely. We listen, people, but that's the whole thing. The bottom line is, as long as we don't buy into the fact that we're powerless because somebody has this quote unquote edge, or they're able to have access that we don't, we can't give up. I mean, that's absolute. You know, it's often one person that makes a great change.
Right. You know, and that's, you know, and you know, it's really like so unfair to the millions of people that are doing everything right and yet can't get anywhere, that can't even get, you know, even like a little bit of leverage in life. You know, doing all the right stuff, leading an honest life, and yet can't acquire, you know, even the minimal amount of edge.
You know what? You just got to keep going after it, and that's the bottom line. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what other people need to start doing. They have to literally find what they're passionate about and what matters most, and dig into that. And I think that's the key to changing the world.
Well, right, because that's exposing the truth. Like, right, because what you're doing is exposing. You know, I mean, like, you're not just, like, advocating, you know, just, right, like, working at McDonald's or whatever, like, you know, working at, you know, your job and just having a paycheck and, like, that's going to get you somewhere. It's like, right, you have to expose the, you know, the system for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
absolutely.
You know, but, yeah, it's just about 8 o'clock, and I want to thank you for being on. So where can people find you and your work?
All my work is free on YouTube, but follow me on Twitter at Jason Burmis. It's Jason, Bermas.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. And I look forward to having you back on. And we'll talk again really soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Take it easy.